So we're here, the final game week of the 2023-2024 Premier League season. This is going to be the final team selection video of the year. I'll probably do another video that will look at review of the season, but in terms of pre-game week, this is the final video. We'll be going through my team selection, my transfers, looking at how I got on in double game week 37, and looking at some differentials that I might be bringing in to help me kind of win my mini league, secure that league, and climb the ranks. Let's get into it.
Yo, listen up, Rue is stepping up the game. Where fantasy Premier League runs in his veins. From transfers to captains, he's always on top. Guiding you through every game week non-stop. They say Rue got that Salah flow. Welcome to the channel, enjoy the show. Wild cards, free hits with so much vibe. If you're hunting for success, then make sure you subscribe.
G'day mate, welcome back to the channel. I'm FPL Rue and welcome back to another FPL video. So in today's video, like I said, we're going through my team selection for game week 38, the last game week of the season. If you are new around here and you've just decided you've come across this channel on the last game week of the season, please make sure you do subscribe. I will be doing Euros 2024 fantasy content as well. And if you're already subscribed, smash a like on this video. Let's get straight into it. So I did want to talk about my game week 37 team, and it was a good game week. I did end up on about a 30k green arrow, which I'm pretty happy with. I can't really complain. I'm now up to 164k ranked overall. I ended up on 134 points, which was a pretty good score, but there is part of me that thinks that I could have been a little bit better, but we'll get through to the players now. So Ederson, 2 clean sheets, can't really ask for more. He ended up with a save point as well in the Spurs game, and he did come off after 68 minutes, so he's looking like a doubt for game week 38, but we'll talk about that later on in the team selection bit. Defence done pretty well, I'd say. Pedro Porro ended up getting a goal against Burnley, so he ended up with 9 points for that game, and then he ended up a point against Man City, so overall 10 points. Again, really happy with that. Veltman only played 39 minutes in this game. He was my transfer in for double game week 37. He ended up scoring and ending up on 7 points for that game, but he did get injured shortly after scoring, so he did miss the second game. But 7 points from him, considering Brighton didn't keep a clean sheet. Again, I can't really complain with that one, considering he's only 4.3 million as well. So yeah, Veltman happy with that. What a pick that was. Burn disappointing. 2 blanks and obviously a -1 because he did concede 3 against Man United in the second game, ended up on 3 points. Also on the bench I had Gabriel and Braithwaite, so 6 points from Braithwaite, 7 points from Gabriel. Over the moon with that, to be honest, because on my wildcard I couldn't afford 2 Arsenal defenders, so I had to go for Braithwaite, who was a cheaper option, and it was a single game week player, so he was 4.5 million now, but I got him for like 4.4. He ended up, in the weeks I played him, a clean sheet against Sheffield United. He ended up getting a clean sheet against Brentford as well in game week 35. So overall, can't complain. And he also got an assist actually in 36 against Luton. So yeah, happy with them 2 picks. Midfield was pretty good. Gordon with a goal in the second game against Man United. Didn't get any bonus or anything, and ended up on a yellow card and ended up getting injured as well. So he ended up on 8 points and will probably miss game week 38, but we'll talk more on that later. Foden with a pretty good score of 11. He scored a goal in the first game against Fulham, and then he blanked against Spurs. So yeah, 11 points I guess is fine, and he is very highly owned, so I guess he didn't really affect my rank too much. Heung-min Son with 4 points, 2 complete blank. He obviously should have scored against Man City on that one-on-one, but yeah, normally Son does score them goals, and he obviously missed that one, which was a massive chance for the game and for the league title. Palmer does what Palmer does. Assist in the first game and 1 bonus, and then a goal and 1 bonus in the second game, ending up on 14 points. Jackson with a goal in the first game, blank in the second game. It's a little bit frustrating with him as he did have a lot of chances, but again, 7 points it's not too bad, but I would have liked him to get a few more returns, to be totally honest with you. Haaland, 2 goals in the Spurs game, 3 bonus. You could say, again, a little bit disappointing. I know my players did well, but most of them kind of didn't really deliver in both games, which again, this is why you pick and go for double game week players, because you get 2 chances to to get a return, and I guess that's the whole point of it. But I would have liked to maybe Haaland get a goal in the first game and then 2 in the second game, or because of the fact that if he split his goals over 2 games, he probably would have got bonus in both games. So that is just extra points. Whereas because most of my players ended up doing it in 1 game, they kind of had a blank and then they got a few bonus in the first game. Whereas if they, I guess, got a return in both games, then they would have got more bonus points. But it's just one of them things. And then Isak with a blank as well. He came off early in the first game. Disappointing. He was ill, I think, but yeah, surprised that he didn't score, considering Newcastle did score 3 goals and against 2 very leaky defences, Brighton and Man United. But I guess it's just one of them things. And then Petrovic on the bench as well. Almost had a clean sheet against Brighton. I think they conceded in the 97th minute. That was disappointing, to be totally honest with you, because a lot of Gusto owners obviously had him come off the bench and bank the clean sheet, whereas Petrovic ended up losing it. And then Johnson, my transfer in, got an assist in the first game, ended up on 7 points. Overall, I think I can't complain, but at the same time, my transfer would, if Bruno was fit, my transfer would have been Van der Ven in, and I would have left Bruno, so I wouldn't have had Veltman and Johnson. And Van der Ven ended up getting, I don't know about in total, but he ended up with 11 points in the first game because he did score. And then the second game, he ended up with 1 point. So it would have been 12 points, which my 2 players scored 14 points. And then with Bruno as well, came on the second game and ended up getting an assist, which was 5 points. So overall, would have ended up on 16. I've lost 2 points and I've lost a transfer. So sometimes when you think you've made the right moves, if a player hasn't started the first game like Bruno, but in the end, yeah, it turned out to be, I guess, not a good move. But like I said, it's just one of them things, and we'll move on to Game Week 38. So now we'll move on to my Game Week 38 team. We'll start off in goal. So obviously Ederson came off injured against Spurs. It does look like he had a concussion, but in the end it ended up being like a damaged eye. I'm not too sure how he continued, to be honest, because I've seen some videos and he was out cold, and yeah, fair play to him, but I'm not too sure how the doctors kind of let him play on, even though it was only for 2 to 3 minutes, but it still should have been taken off. So he's on the bench because obviously he has come out and he's going to miss both the last game of the season and the FA Cup final. So Petrovic is in goal. I'm not too mad about that because it was a 50-50, I'd say. I think probably slightly favour Man City's defence, especially because Bournemouth have players like Solanke, Kluivert, Semenyo that can do damage to Chelsea, and Chelsea's defence has not been known to be that solid recently. So I probably would have played Ederson, but to have someone against Bournemouth at home, I'm not really too mad about that. The only issue is Ederson obviously does take up a Man City spot, who I guess I would have loved to have out on the pitch in defence, someone like Gavardio in midfield, maybe even go De Bruyne. But obviously I ended up going for Ederson, and now he's kind of taken up a spot. But I could potentially take him out as part of my transfers, but we'll discuss that a bit later on. For now, Petrovic does get the nod. In defence, not the best, to be totally honest with you. I'm more than happy with Porro and Gabriel, but I'm not too sure on Dan Burn. We'll start with Porro first, though. So again, I'm not expecting a clean sheet from Spurs. I can't remember the last time they did keep a clean sheet. I'm pretty sure it was away at Aston Villa in Game Week 28 when they won 4-0. But Porro, we know he can get attacking returns, 2 goals, 8 assists this season. Should have had more goals. And to be honest, against this Sheffield United side, I can see Spurs scoring 5 or 6 goals. I think they performed very well against Manchester City. Obviously didn't get the result that I guess some of the team wanted, or some of the club wanted. But yeah, I think they'll go into that game feeling that they're going to want to put on a show and finish the season off strongly, because they have lost 5 of their last 6 games. And I think Pedro Porro is always good for an assist or a goal. And you gotta expect Spurs to keep a clean sheet in this one, even though their defence hasn't been great recently. Gabriel, Everton at home, I think is a very good fixture for him defensively for Arsenal. I don't think Everton score too many goals, and Arsenal defensively are ridiculous. They've kept 4 clean sheets in the last 5. Only clean sheet they didn't keep was away at Spurs. So goes to show kind of how good they actually are defensively. And Gabriel, we know he can get attacking returns, 3 goals, 1 assist. So yeah, he ain't going anywhere, and he's definitely in my team for this game week. Dan Burn, it's a little bit annoying, to be totally honest with you, because obviously if I did go for someone like Van der Ven last week, then I would have had Van der Ven this fixture against Sheffield United away. But I ended up going for Veltman, who actually got injured as well, so he is on my bench injured. We don't know if he's definitely going to miss the game, but I'd say 90% he is going to miss that game. And it's against Man United anyway, but I would probably prefer to play him against Man United than Newcastle away at Brentford. But yeah, like I said, Dan Burn, I don't love it, to be totally honest with you. I'm just not too sure I'd want to spend a -4 to bring in another defender. If it was maybe game week 28 or game week 32 or game week 35, then you could argue that it's not too bad because you're getting that defender for a few game weeks. But as it's game week 38, yeah, I just don't want to. I just don't want to do that. Spend 4 points and then that defender's going to have to get a clean sheet, and Burns not going to get a clean sheet just to get your points back. Obviously, you've got attacking defenders that can get goals and that, but for me, unless I'm getting Trent, I just can't see that as being worth it. Overall, though, I'm not happy with Dan Burn, going in with Dan Burn, but 2 goals, 2 assists this season. Newcastle haven't won in 2 games, so they drew against Brighton and lost against Man United. They're going to want to end the season well. Yeah, I'm not hopeful of a clean sheet, but you never know. Dan Burn, bullet header, that'll do nicely. Let's get on to the midfield. So now we'll move on to my game week 38 midfield, and it's looking pretty good, to be totally honest with you. We've got the Spurs boys with Sheffield United away, Foden with West Ham at home, and Cole Palmer with Bournemouth at home. We'll start off with the Spurs boys. So Sheffield United away. Sheffield United have conceded over 100 goals this season. They've been terrible. They've been the worst team in the league. And Spurs need a result, at least a draw, to secure Europa League. And I think this is going to be a good game for them and a good game for their forward players. Son hasn't been great recently, I'll be totally honest. He's blanked in obviously the last 2 games. He has been chipping in with an odd goal here and there, goal against Arsenal, goal against Liverpool. But for me, I have been expecting a bit more from him, to be totally honest with you. I think the fact that he's went out wide with Richarlison in the team, where he's not really affecting the game in terms of scoring, I'd say. He's more of a kind of a creative player from the left. Or when he plays down the middle, I feel sometimes he gets a bit isolated. So it is a tricky one. I think Son needs a striker through the middle to perform well, like someone like Harry Kane that can drop deep and he can run in behind. Someone like Llorente played really well with when Spurs got to the Champions League final. But for me, I actually do think Spurs will play Brennan Johnson up front for this game. I've just got a feeling they're going to want to try that. I think Kulusevski will come back in because he did look very, very good against Man City, and I think he'll play on the right with Son on the left, Johnson through the middle. So I think for that reason, I think that does make Son a better option. And obviously Brennan Johnson a better option too. But Son, 17 goals, 9 assists this season, still a pretty good season for him, but I'm just expecting a little bit more from him. Obviously he had that big chance against Man City recently, and if that goes in, he could have been on 14 points for the double game week and everyone would have been like, yeah, brilliant. But it didn't go in, and I can definitely see maybe a dip in form slightly, maybe even a dip in confidence, but I think he'll pull that back against Sheffield United, and I think Sheffield United is the perfect team to play if you are out of confidence, out of form, and I can see Son scoring at least 2 goals in this game. Next up, Brennan Johnson. So I did mention I do think Brennan Johnson will end up playing through the middle with Son going out to the left. I think he's looked very sharp recently, and I'm not too sure how he didn't score against Burnley. And even that game against Man City, it was Brennan Johnson's pass to Son where Son went through clear, so that would have been an assist. If he did get a goal in that Burnley game and an assist against Man City, it would have ended up on 15, 20 points, and it just kind of changed the whole narrative around Brennan Johnson. But this season, he's only started 25 games, 5 goals, 11 assists. Goals nowhere near enough, but I think moving him into the middle can actually benefit him and benefit the Spurs attack, because I think at the minute, you could argue they are missing that focal point up front. I think they get there and then they kind of, no one's there to kind of take the reins or or just, I guess, make that one final pass or have a shot from outside the box. No one's really doing that at the minute. And I think by putting Johnson through the middle, you're kind of allowing Son and Kulusevski to do that. So for that reason, yeah, I think Johnson's a great pick for this game week. And although my transfers last week could have been better if I just went for Van der Ven instead of Johnson, but I'm over the moon going into this game week with Johnson in my team against Sheffield United away. Next up, Phil Foden. Probably a disappointing game week for Phil Foden's standards. Only a goal against Fulham, but we know how good he is and we know how good he can be. And I think this game's perfect for him. West Ham at home, they're going to need to win the league. They're relentless at home, to be totally honest with you. And I can see Foden chipping in with a goal and assist in this game. Absolutely no worries. And providing Haaland for hopefully another home hat trick. Palmer, Bournemouth at home. You could even say Palmer's gone a bit quiet recently, but his stats don't say that. Assist, goal in his last 4 games. He's just ridiculous this season. I can't believe he started at 5 million, ended up people were buying him for 4.9 million. This season, 22 goals, 12 assists for someone that's only started 28 games. It is ridiculous, and it still shocks me that City kind of let him go for 40 million. I know it was probably his decision because he weren't getting enough game time, but I think if he just stayed at this game with Riyad Mahrez leaving, potentially Bernardo Silva leaving this season, I think he would have got enough game time, and him in that City team would have been scary. So overall, I'm pretty happy with my midfield. Gordon's on the bench because of his injury. I probably would have benched him anyway. He has got an ankle injury, but we've heard this before from Eddie Howe, and Gordon's played the next game. But I think the fact that it's away from home against Brentford, who are an okay team, they're a pretty decent team, I think I'm happy to bench someone like Anthony Gordon. But potentially, I could be looking to take him out in terms of a transfer and then end up benching one of my forwards. But let's get on to the forwards now anyway. So now we're on to the forwards. So the forwards are looking pretty good for this game week. We've obviously got Erling Haaland, just come off the back of 2 goals in double game week 37. And I think this fixture is going to be very, very nice for him, to be totally honest with you. His last game at home against Wolves, he scored 4 goals. So if that says anything, then I'm hoping for at least another 3 goals from him. I don't really know what more I can say about Haaland. He's had a poor season, as some people might say, and he's got 27 goals, 8 assists, and he's only started 28 games. So a goal a game for me sounds pretty good, but I guess people are going to hate. And for me, he is the clear and obvious captaincy option. I think Son is a very nice option too, but for me, I just wouldn't risk it. I think, okay, it's obviously a different situation if you're chasing your mini leagues, if you're trying to you're not happy with your rank and you want to take a risk, then I think fair enough. Like, you could go for Son or you could go for Palmer. I just don't think it's going to pay off, to be totally honest with you. I just can't see a world where Haaland doesn't score at least 2 goals. And you could argue that, or if Son scores 2 goals or if Palmer scores 2 goals, they're going to end up with more points because they're midfielders. And yes, that is the case, but is it worth that risk? For me, it's not worth it. Even if you are chasing, I just wouldn't go against Haaland at home. But again, if you do want to do that, then fair enough. Let me know in the comment section below. Also got Nicholas Jackson, Bournemouth at home. So with him, I think it is a good fixture for him, and he has started to pick up a bit of form recently. He's got 4 goals in his last 5 games, which for me is a very good return. 1 assist in there as well, so really you can count that as 5 returns in 4 games. Overall the season, 14 goals, 6 assists, so 20 returns in 30. Probably not good enough, but considering where Chelsea were in the league, I know now they're 6th, which is ridiculous. I still can't believe they've ended up in 6th. They've won their last 4 games, and for me, they're going to go into this game. They're going to need to win. They know Newcastle are kind of right on their tails for that 6th spot, and I think Jackson will do well in this game. He's been threatening to do well for a lot of games, and he has been chipping in with the odd goal, but really he should have been getting more, and I think they'll come in this game. Last game of the season, I think Nkunku will play as well, so having Nkunku to kind of feed him will only enhance him, and for me, I think he's going to get a couple of returns in this game. Isak is also in the team at the minute. Disappointing, to be honest. Double game week for him. He's blanked in both games. I'm not too confident going into this Brentford game. I think Newcastle have dipped in form now. I know they're still fighting for 6th place, but Brentford's not an easy place to go to. And away from home, we know Newcastle are not the best. But having said that, in not his last away game, but his game before that, it was against Burnley, and he ended up with a goal and an assist. So he can do it away from home, don't get me wrong, but I'm not overly confident with Isak, and I think he's so highly owned that this is where you should be taking a risk if you are looking to take a risk, because I think there are some better strikers out there. I think even going for Nkunku could be a shout. Obviously, if you have the Chelsea spot, someone like João Pedro could be a nice shout against Man United at home. I think there are a few strikers out there. For me, though, I'm probably going to end up, again, we'll talk about it in the next slide, but I'm probably going to end up benching Isak and maybe transferring out one of my other players in order to play them and then bench Isak. But anyway, let's get on to that now. So now we'll move on to my potential transfers. So I think the move I'm going to make is Gordon to an Arsenal midfielder, because to be honest, I've got 3 City. I think the best teams to target are Man City, Spurs, and I think Chelsea. Obviously, Palace have a good fixture as well. I know they've got Villa at home, which Villa are a decent team, but I've seen the way they celebrated that Champions League spot the other night, and I don't think they're going to be in a good way for that game. And there's also got Liverpool as well. Klopp's last game, Wolves at home, I think is a very good fixture. But for me, if we just rattle it down to the teams that I think I want to target, City, I'm already tripled up on. I could move out Ederson in order to get another City player, but for me, I'm just not sure where I'd go. I only really want to go De Bruyne, and yeah, I'd end up having to get a 4 million goalkeeper, which is fine, but I'd be taking a -4, I guess, just for De Bruyne, which could be worth it, but I'm not too sure. Also, De Bruyne's flagged. We've also got, like I said, you got Liverpool, which I really do want someone like Salah, but again, I can't afford it, and I don't really love the other options. There is an argument to go for someone like Luis Diaz, but I'm just not a fan of him in terms of FPL and FPL performance. Gakpo's been playing well recently, but again, not a fan of him. I do really like Harvey Elliott, but I'm not sure I actually need to take that risk. I think with people that are needing to take a risk, I think Harvey Elliott could be a nice shout, and I think he will start in that game week. He ended up getting an assist in game week 37 as well. Also got Chelsea I'm tripled up on, so nothing really I can do there. I don't really want to take out Petrovic or take out Palmer, obviously, and Jackson. And then Spurs I'm already tripled up on. So really, I've only really got Palace with Villa at home, and then Arsenal with Everton at home. And to be totally honest with you, you could make an argument that I should be going for a Palace player because Everton are very good defensively. But I think Arsenal are going to want to end the season well, whether they win the league or not. Last season, when they were, I guess, they were out the league, or they bottled the league, they went and thrashed Wolves 5-0, I think it was. So I think this season they're going to want to put in a big performance. And Everton had a long season. I'm not saying they're going to go there and just chill out, but they don't need to win. They've fought in bloody a whole lot of minus points deductions. They've had a long season fighting that, being safe, being in the relegation zone, being safe, applying for kind of a review on their points deduction. I can't see them being up for this game. So really, it just leaves me 2 options. I think Bukayo Saka, he obviously has a knock, as always. It says 75% chance of playing, but there's no way he's not going to play. I just think potentially if Arsenal are winning 3-0, that he could take off Saka just to, I guess, not aggravate his injury further and not go into the summer or the Euros with an injury. But I can't really see that happen. I think at most he's going to be taken off 10 minutes earlier. And obviously Saka's done really well this season. His numbers have looked very good. Again, a player that I don't think has got the credit he probably deserves this season. I know he's gone a bit quiet in a few games, but his numbers have been ridiculous. 16 goals, 12 assists, which is 28 returns in 35 starts. For someone that is, yeah, for me, I think that's very good. But the other option, Havertz, 7.5 million, 9.2% owned, is going to be playing central striker, but obviously he doesn't have the penalties of Saka. His returns are 12 goals, 10 assists in 29 starts. So a little bit, I guess, a little bit better than Saka in terms of goals per. per game ratio. But for me, I think because Saka's on penalties, I think he's going to be the player to go for. I don't love that he's flagged, but if that flag does go, then I'm pretty sure it's going to be Saka. There are also, like I said, Crystal Palace players that I could go for Elise, Eze, even go for someone like Mateta. But I'm just not sure it's worth it. I think if Villa do turn up, then there's going to be a close game, and if they don't turn up, then you could argue that Palace can score 3 or 4. But I think I'd rather put my faith in a team that is, I guess, has something to play for, and is at home against, I guess, a team that is a bit lower down in the league. Overall, though, I think thank you for supporting this season. Thank you for liking videos, subscribing, commenting. Yeah, I really do appreciate it all. And if you haven't subscribed, please make sure you do hit that button. It's completely free and it does help me out. And remember, I will be creating Euro 2024 fantasy content. First video will be out very, very shortly, probably in the next couple of days. And yeah, keep an eye out for that. And yeah, good luck for the game week.